on this. And let me go over here to share.
You better believe it.
Going live.
Alive and well.
Yes, we are.
There we go.
We are alive and well on Thursday, August 19th.
Holy smokus.
School's back in session for some.
That is why I am representing my Dr. Seuss green eggs and ham shirt. This is for all the children going back to school. They are our future. They are our destiny.
Yes, they are. And you have two very fine little, what are they, third and fourth graders?
Yep. Third and fourth graders. I get a lot of compliments all the time. Oh, they're so cute. And I always say, you know what? They take after their mother. They take after their mother.
With the confidence of their father.
Well, speaking of which, today's another day worth repeating, really. I mean, it's always an honor and a privilege to have this conversation or any conversation with you, Gail, regarding expansion, evolution, evolving, exploring ourselves through transformation. And I think that's what we have sort of gripped our claws into, is just helping people, provoking people to transform. And so we've decided today is going to be about, where are we putting our attention? And because I've seen it I've seen hundreds of times, thousands of times, where people apply their attention to what they think is the right area and the right emphasis. But I'll tell you, we've been working backwards for far too long, right? So we're going to talk about the tree of life today. And it's sort of a metaphor, but it exemplifies when we put our attention to the things we can't see, like underground, the roots, like that's what produces our fruits. And so, Gail, how has this made an impact on you when you first were introduced to this 18 months back?
Oh, goodness. Well, I've said it before. I was somebody who focused on my nutrition, but didn't have an ounce of movement in her body. And fast forward now, 488 days worth of intentional movement. And, some days have been more than others, but the bottom line is it's become a part of who I am. It's my roots. Like, I get up in the morning. I went this morning, went for a run, walked I went out another 2 miles and walked back, went to the gym, worked out. And I served but you had asked a question, like, who are you attracting today? And so that we're going to talk about that, because we're a reflection and we attract the energy that we give off each and every day. And so I answered you, I said, I'm attracting the best inner person of myself, or like being inspired by the inner being of my best self. So it's meant the world to me over the last 18 months to really not just reflect on, the movement part of my journey, but the whole person. Like, man, Steve, I've had kind of a rough week in the emotional part of my life. And it goes back to answering those questions. Like, I'm asking myself some really tough questions this week, and I get emotional because I don't even know some of the answers I'm giving myself are tough for myself to hear. But I know that that's growth. We can't grow within our comfort zone as well as we do outside of our comfort zone.
We don't get out of our comfort zone by staying in our comfort zone.
No, we don't grow. We don't grow, expand, explore, evolve. And so that's been a tremendous gift to me. And I relate it back to, one of the questions you asked me this week, Gail, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on your external results? Are you your fruits? And honestly, I was, Steve, and I had to come back and bring that back and work more on the roots. So
yeah, we call that working from circumstance. Your external conditions, the situation that you see, Like we see our physical body, we see our bank account, we see the people that we're communicating with, our environment, we see the people that are in there. But when you work from circumstance, the truth is you remain in circumstance. So let me, if I may, let me talk about the tree of life. Let me kind of sort of simplify this and for the people and folks that are watching this to really understand that if you're not working from this place, like if you don't apply this principle to your life, to some extent you're suffering, and there's a sense of feeling stuck. There's a sense of being kind of in this place of no man's land where you're not happy, but you're not unhappy enough to do anything about it. So let's talk about the tree of life. Here's what I want everybody to do. And if you're watching this visually, you can see me. I'll be pretty animated. This is one of my favorite, parts to talk about. But I want you to imagine a tree. Okay, so just imagine, because when I look out the window, I can see some beautiful trees that are blossomed up here in the summertime. And so imagine a tree, and let's suppose that this tree represents your tree of life. So you can picture it, you can imagine it. And on this tree, there are fruits. And these fruits in our life, these are called our results. So what we do is we observe and we look at the tree and we see these fruits, which are on our tree of life, and the results, and we can't stand these fruits. Like these fruits the results we have, they scare us. And there's not enough of them. The fruits are too small. They taste bitter. They taste horrible. They taste like crap. Whatever word you choose that is not a great tasting feel for you. So what do we usually do? Most of us look at these fruits, the results in our life, just like we're talking about the circumstances, these situations, our environment, and we put even more attention and emphasis on these fruits or the results. But what is it? Think about this. What is it that actually produces these particular fruits? Gail, what is it? What produces these particular fruits?
It's what's underground, what you don't see.
Yeah, I refer to them as the seeds and the roots. It's the seeds, like we're planting seeds every moment. We don't realize it. And again, it's insidious. We're just dropping these little seeds. And sometimes these seeds are negative connotations of things, our thoughts, our beliefs, the stories we tell ourselves. And oftentimes, if we have enough awareness to it, these seeds can be very fruitful. They could be very abundant. They could be full of opportunity. So it's what's underground that produces what is above ground. It's the invisible. It's the things we can't see that produces the visible. And we even go back to the transformation equation again, right? So the transformation equation, R times C squared plus T is greater than S. All those components are invisible. There's no tangible things to that process. There's nothing like, all right, well, you have to have a to-do list and you make sure that you're making this many calls and, you have to get this type of training in and eat these types of foods. And that's what creates success. No, it's the things we cannot see. It's you being responsible, the R, the two C's, you being committed and consistent to whatever you choose to do. And there really is no wrong decision. It's just you're lazy, you're just uncommitted, you're inconsistent. And then given enough time, it's going to be greater than your S, which is success. And success is the productive or progressive realization of a worthy ideal, whatever success means to you. Success is not something that we chase or pursue. It's what we attract by the roots that we are cultivating. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense to me.
If that makes sense. So what does this mean? If I'm saying that it's what's below ground is producing what's above ground, or it's the invisible that is creating the visible, what this means is that if you want to change your fruits, if you want to look up at your tree of life and do any observation, any comparison even, first, if you want to change those fruits, first you must change your roots. You must expand, evolve, and explore what your roots really truly need? And the truth is, we know the answer. Like, we know what we need to do, we just don't do what we know.
Yeah.
So if you want to change what's visible on the outside, we first must change and put attention and emphasis, not on the fruits, but on the invisible, the roots and the seeds that you're choosing to plant, that you're choosing to put into that fertile soil. That's where your attention goes.
And
So it's pretty remarkable.
the awareness that you have around that. So a lot of times we ignore those promptings. You know, like we know what we should be doing, we just don't not doing what we know. But
Mhm.
we have those promptings that come up. So, you know, having the awareness, like the word attention, the word self-image, reflection, awareness, all of those words, when you really put some emphasis on them and take a look, explore within yourself, where, like, what do you see when you look in the mirror? Like, are you like, do you smile back at that reflection? Or are you shameful or guilty or,
Well,
you
see,
know,
what people, sorry to cut you off, Gail, but when we ask ourselves that question, which is really a great question, where most people are going to go is going to be what they physically see. You look in the mirror and they physically see 100 pounds of overweight being. They see someone that is unhappy. They see someone that has very low energy. They see the physical. They see that their arms aren't the way they want them to be. They see that their waist is much different than what they desire it to be. But what if you ask yourself this question, is what's your relationship with your health? So you're taking ownership now. And that's part of accountability. And we talked about accountability, was it last week? Did we do ownership? We talked about, was that?
yeah.
Yeah, we talked about ownership, the last component of ECHO. So accountability.
Information game versus weight loss game. But
Okay, yeah, so that was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. It all coincides. It all stacks up on top of each other, really. And we talked about it, I think, last week as well. But accountability, like, nobody can hold you accountable. Nobody can hold you accountable to you putting the attention and emphasis and the extension of what's required on your roots. Now think about a tree, like a legit tree, or how about this? Think of a flower. Think about a beautiful flower that's maybe growing in your front yard. And when that flower first started growing, at some point, it started off as a seed. Didn't start off as a flower, it started off as a seed somewhere. And I'm thinking this because I planted some flowers in my front flower bed and they're already dying. Like, they're already sort of wilting, and, you know, I take great care of them. Perhaps it's the soil. But the point being is, I know that next year, they're perennials. Next year, they're going to grow into more beautiful flowers.
mm-hmm.
But the roots underneath are growing, expanding, because despite what they look like, they don't look very appealing. There's no curb appeal in that flower bed right now with the flowers I just planted. However, I know that in order for me to grow those flowers, I'm not paying attention to the leaves and the color of the flowers. I'm putting attention to how much water should I be giving it? How much sunlight does it deserve to have? Do I improve the quality of the soil? Do I fertilize it? Those are the things that I'm putting attention to, because I know, given enough time and being responsible in that process through consistency, those flowers are already beautiful flowers. The days and the moments of watering and cultivating just haven't caught up yet. That's when you're attracting what that flower is going to look like. And we're no different. And then some people are going to say that, well, I don't know about all this hocus pocus, mumbo jumbo, invisible thinking type of stuff, because seeing is believing, right? Well, if that's the case, and I'll let you believe that for a moment, but the question I have for these people is, what's the point of even paying your electric bill then? You can't see the electricity. I mean, you know it's there, you can't see it, but you pay for it. And if you have any doubt to the power or what electricity offers, then do what I did when I was 2 years young. I took a key and I stuck it into an electrical socket, and man, that was shocking.
That's why your hair stands up all the
Yeah,
time.
that was shocking. And you'll soon change your doubts on what electricity really is. Now, I know that's metaphorically speaking, but think about that. Think about the power of electricity does, but we can't see it. There's a frequency to it. There's an electricity to it. There's this charge that we can't see. So what would that do for you if you were to put your attention to working below ground, working on the inner self, the inner game? Something to think about.
Works.
Works and word.
And it's not, we don't peak. That's what just came to mind. We don't peak. It's like this party at the summit, man, we're going to have some, victories, and we're going to cheer, and we're going to, but then we're going to alter the path. We're going to look, we're always looking ahead, and we're going to find that next path. And then we're going to go on that path, and we're going to party at the summit when we get there, and party at the next summit and the next summit, because becoming takes a lifetime. It's not, you're not just going to become overnight that instant success. Oh, an overnight success. What do you know about overnight successes, Steve? They've worked their butt off for the last 15 years doing what they did, and then all of a sudden they're an overnight success. So yeah, it takes time. That's where the T in the transformation equation comes in. Taking the responsibility, commitment, consistency, and giving it time over time till you develop, and your success catches up to you in different aspects, in different ways, in different elevations of your life.
Yeah. And in all of my experience, and trust me, it took me some time to really understand this as well. It took me time to witness it in other people. And I had to forcefully not put my attention to external circumstances and put them into the inside game, like the internal things and the ways of being responsible, committed, self-integral, driven, purposeful, enthusiastic. I mean, all the things that we have single-handed attention and alignment to. And in my experience, what you cannot see in this world even is far more powerful than what we can see. And again, some people are like, well, how's that possible? Well, take a look at the quality of your life. Like somewhere in your life, you're proving that because you're putting all the attention to all the external things. You're trying to do all the things instead of being the things that you need to be. And again, to the extent that you don't apply this principle is to the extent that you're going to have suffering. And why is that? Because you're going against this law of essentially nature. Because what is invisible, or what's visible rather, is created by what is invisible. So that is the tree of life, and the roots are what create the fruits.
And that's that comes, gosh, there's so many ways to go. So what's a great question that you get all the time from people that are regarding to the tree of life? And Steve, where do I start? How do I start with nourishing those roots?
I think that's a simple response. And actually this comes from coaching. Really, this is a coaching question, because the question, I would say, once people actually understand it, they're like, okay, I get it. That makes sense. So once their analytical part of the brain is like, okay, or at least they give it an open opportunity, they say, all right, well, what can I do today to strengthen my roots? But think about that question. What can I do today to strengthen your roots? My follow-up question is going to be, what are you committed to? And who are you willing to be to achieve that commitment. That's where it starts. There is no follow these 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z. It literally is going to come down to, what are you committed to? And who are you willing or choosing to be from a characteristic standpoint, from a subconscious values standpoint? That's going to start essentially representing you watering, you giving it sun, you giving it the fertile soil. What are those components in your life? Because everybody's going to be different. My responsibility as a coach is not to give you the answers. My responsibility is to ask you the questions so that you devise the response. Because if I just gave you the answer and said, all right, well, here's what you need to do, this, and this, and then you go doing them, and you know that you're not one of being committed or responsible or consistent, then guess what? You blame me because it didn't work.
Right.
Well, Coach Steve told me to do that. That doesn't work. Well, if you're not being one that's committed, or you don't believe that you can stick to things, or your characteristic is that you're inconsistent, it doesn't matter what I tell you to do or suggest you do or recommend you do. If you're not one of being committed or consistent, none of the doing is going to matter. So this is where the internal, deeper work happens. It's going below the iceberg, not the top of the surface. I see, and I talked about this on my brief call yesterday when I jumped in there. I said, hey, there's metaphorically the iceberg, and the top of the iceberg, let's say 10% of the iceberg is showing. That 10% is what everybody else sees. That's you showing up as your best representation on social media, and you with all the smiles and hugging your kids and doing your business and all these things. But that 90% below the surface of that iceberg, that's where the deep work happens. That's where transformation happens, is below. So you can almost use the analogy of an iceberg, if that resonates with you more, than a tree. Either way, think about the tree's roots, how wide and vast a tree's roots go, and deep and thick, to produce the little bit of tree that comes up on top. So that's where I would say start, because that's one of the common questions is like, hey, what can I do today? What do I do today to strengthen my roots? Well, what are you not doing right now that you know you should be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a great question. Let me think about that, because I don't have the answer. I don't know what your life's like. I don't know what, challenges you're having. So that's probably even the better follow-up question is, what are you not doing that you know you should be doing? Or who are you not being that you know you should be being?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a party at the summit extravaganza.
Amen, brother.
Amen.
I got my tree of life right here. Right
I
behind.
love it.
Reminds me. I look at that and I go, yep, where's your focus today, Gail? And so Steve, thank you for bringing your best self to us once again to discover what goes on underneath the invisible is really what produces the visible and seen. And it's never too late to start. Ask yourself questions.
It just pains me to see people suffering when they don't have to be, and where they're putting their attention. I mean, if we were, and this will likely be another episode topic or concept, but talking about we are where our attention is, and we are a reflection of our habits, our beliefs, all those things. But I'm passionate about people living in their healthiest bodies to the greatest of their potential. It's not my potential. I know what my capabilities are. I know what my potential is. I want to provoke you, for those that are listening or watching, to discover more of who they are or who they can be with infinite possibilities. Just like you have inspired possibilities, I'll say infinite potential. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
And then helping people free themselves from themselves. So if you just simply said, okay, my attention right now, if you look in the mirror like, gosh, I just can't stand the way I look right now. Like, this is ridiculous. How did this get out of hand? You put more attention to that. And that attention that you're putting to the fruits on the tree, because here's the truth. Let me finish off by saying this, is that if you're placing your attention on the fruits that are already on the tree, it's futile. You cannot change the fruits that are already hanging on your tree. What you can change, though, are the fruits that the tree is going to produce tomorrow. Think about that. You can't change those fruits. They're already hanging there. They are a byproduct of all the decisions, all the beliefs, all the stories, all the things that you had in the past. The past is over. Move yourself from looking up, look down, and start, or inside rather. Don't look outside, look inside. I think we do want to look up. We want to look up and we want to be in a forward moving motion. We want to be forward thinking, forward moving. So that's where I'll leave it to you with that. And then also just ask yourself that simple question. Like, hey, what are you not doing that you know you should be doing? Or who are you not being that you know you should be being to strengthen and deepen those roots? Because when that storm comes, because it's going to come, the storms are always coming. What's the foundation? What's the integrity of your tree's roots? Does that storm come and just rips you out of the ground because you're so focused on the top, you haven't grown the roots? Or do you have such a planted root system that no matter what storm comes, no matter what somebody says, how they treat you, what they say, or what opportunities they do or don't give you, that those roots will keep you grounded and you weather any storm that comes, and you just keep growing and getting better and bigger and becoming the acorn. That might be another one too.
All right. Well, with that, thanks for joining us today on another
Bonus time. We got some bonus time today.
session of Party at the Summit podcast, where we're talking about the tree of life. So catch you next week, 11/11, Thursday, Eastern Standard Time. Thanks, Steve.
Ready to go, Gail? Say let's go. Let's go.
Let's go.
Make it a day worth repeating.